The BIOSCHAMP project aims to develop an integrated approach to the mushroom sector of science. The objectives of the project were develop an alternative and sustainable aging soil and develop a lifestyle. With this objective in mind, the project wanted to reduce the use of peat and pesticides, contributing in this way in a more sustainable, profitable, and productive European market. For that, in order to consider the objective, several field farmers have joined forces for development. We are 13 members from different countries, 7 countries, and I'm going to present this part. The Peat, the Microbes Research Center of La Rioja, in Agro, also is an horticultural research center in Belgium, Madrid University, in the Netherlands, the public research university with recognized programs in the agriculture, forestry, and environment. Also, is there the SIG in Massa. They focus on research in the fields of agriculture, environment, and animal health. Herminia in Spain, leading company in the production and consolidation of fertilizers. The Department of Plant Science of the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. The Department of Combines Animal Microbial and Plant Science to offer research in that areas. The University of Herminia is one of the most prestigious Italian universities. In Grogan, in Spain, it's a leading technical innovation consultancy in Europe, specialized in the agriculture sector and the bioeconomy. The Kekkila-BVB in the Netherlands is the European leader in horticulture and a supplier in high-quality substrates and working media products worldwide. Newfos in the Netherlands is a company that converts 100% of non-woody biomass into high-value products in the case of this project. Substrates. Ekofungi in Serbia, that is organic producer of mushroom and vegetables. All the products are produced in a sustainable way. Roxanne in Spain, that is the world's second largest operator of mushrooms, and Roxanne represents in La Rioja the majority of the mushroom sector. And Grogan in Grogan, that the company aims to provide its consumers with the healthy and tasty mushrooms and obtain the latest quality standards. Then, thanks to the experience of the members of the project, we designed some steps to develop our objectives. The first step will be to start in the development of alternative peat-based invasive materials and advance in microbial optimization. This first step is the small-scale trials and lab trials. But first, the consortium decided what kind of peat alternatives we will use in this part. Peat also as control in the small scale trials and also as part of some mixes. And peat is commonly used in agriculture and it's a carbon-rich resource. It is considered a non-renewable resource because its rate of extraction in forests it's a global growth, more or less is 1 millimeter per year. And also, the current European regulations are increasingly restrictive in the extraction of this resource. Also, we have grass fibers. Grass fibers used in this study are produced by a circular biorefinery process that converts the non-body biomass into the fibers, and it is produced from a mild extraction of various agricultural and agricultural residue streams. The sphagnum moss. Sphagnum moss refers to the non-decomposed moss from the sphagnum species. This is a organically degraded and grain peatlands and peatlands that were formerly infected. It has the advantage of being cyclically and renewably harvested. The spent is soil, which consists of peat with some multiple mixes in, and and is mechanically separated from the compost after out steaming of the growing chambers at the end of the crop cycle. Spent casing and the pasteurization as part of the previous cultivation cycle. Then we don't use extra energy or cost facilities to this. Green compost is the final stable and nutrient-rich product resulting from composting organic waste. It contains both humus, which is a stable organic matter, and the mineral components from the original waste. The composting process reaches high temperatures, ensuring the compost is free from harmful pathogens, insect larvae, and weed seeds. Then I explain the main raw materials in the part of the peat. We can start with the small trials. The small trials, we use the regular materials spring, and we carry out different value trials with the different mixes of alternative casing soils, with the material estimate and unestimate. In total, 25 mixes with peat replacement of 25, 50, and 70%. And other trials evaluating the productivity, quality, precocity, and disease incidence of the alternative casing. This picture is, I think, in the capabilities of the Lauro, with pilot trials. And also we have the part of the biostimulant that we use a biobank 150 bacteria for macro and this biobank is selected the most maximum activities. That was different strains of Pseudomonas fluidas, Pseudomonas fluorescens, and different.
Okay, the project evaluate the effectiveness of the biostimulants against pathogens and how it will affect the Agaricus bisporus mycelia development. And also we determine the metabolites generated by these biostimulants and that have a fungi effect against the typical crop pathogens like Cladobotrium, the cobweb, Trichoderma, the Canicilium fungicola, the dry bubble, and Mycogone perniciosa, a wet bubble. With all this information that we obtained, specific Tagman assay was designed to quantify the presence of these biostimulants in the casing soils. In this picture, you can see the different trials that carry out, I think, in the University of Oxford. Then after that, 7 trials were conducted in growth cabinet and in medium-sized growing unit at these facilities. You can see in the first picture the cabinet, and under that picture, the medium-sized growing units in Teagasc. And the aim of these trials was to validate the viability of isolated strains as biostimulants in the mushroom cultivation, and the most appropriate doses and the most suitable times for the application of these biostimulants. Then we studied different raw materials and the biostimulants, and that was the moment to merging that knowledge and carry out the more large trials in inaugural Teagasc. The same trials in both parts. Inaugural carried out 4 trials with 7 types of casing soils were tested. Part of these trials were with a substitution of 50% with grass, green compost, spent casing, and sphagnum moss. We use peat as control, and also we carry out trials with 100% substitution of peat, the mixture 1 and the mixture 2, that were formed with grass, spent casing, and sphagnum moss, and the mixture 2 with green compost, spent casing, and sphagnum moss. And also in these trials, we used 3 mixes of the biostimulants in different doses. One of the mixes was only Bacillus belecensis. The other mix was Pseudomonas with Pseudomonas fluorescens with Pseudomonas putida, and the other one was a mix of the 3 bacteria, and also with steam and unsteam raw materials. This picture is from the inaugural facilities, the mixing, and the day of picking the crop. And also you can see the application of the biostimulant, I think the watering regime also. As I say, the same trials were carried out in Spain at 30 facilities. In this picture, you can see the picking day. And here we can see mixes. Maybe the experts can identify the control, the Peat, but you can see the aspect of the different mixes more or less, okay? And then this first part of the project, the first step with the small scale trials were finished. Then what we have obtained of this first step, that based on the result and the economic and energy criteria, BIOSCHAMP concluded that the alternative casing soil with most potential were the 50% grass plus 50% peat and 50% sphagnum moss plus 50% peat. And also, the biostimulant with most potential was the Bacillus berecensis TM19. After that was the time to carry out the semi-commercial trials. That semi-commercial trials carry out at the Teagasc and in our facilities. In trials in both places, in our carry out 3 trials with 50% grass and 50% peat, 50% sphagnum and 50% peat, and and peat as control. And also with the Bacillus berecensis TM19 and with the raw materials steam and unsteam. You can see in the pictures the mixes and semi-commercial growing units at Inagro. As I said, the same trials were carried out at these facilities. You can see in the pictures the moment that we are steaming the raw materials, when we mix that raw materials, and when we cover in our semi-commercial growing unit. We take samples. Samples were collected and analyzed by Tuckman assay to monitor the biostimulant population in this part. Also, the effect of the biostimulants on the total microbial composition was studied by PLFA. Hola? Sorry. Because the knowledge on the population dynamics is relevant in the development of an effective treatment. And of course, we also analyze the productivity, disease incidence, color, all the parameters that show us that the productivity is good and the quality of the mushrooms are equal to the control. And with this part, what happened? That we see that the peat that we select in the small scale trials have potential, and we can use the unestimated casing soils because we didn't see a difference in the incidence of the disease in the steam or unestimated casing soils. Then the cost of steam these raw materials is very high, and to avoid that, the energetic cost and the economic cost is too high. To avoid that, we select the unestimated raw materials. But despite the promising results in the lab scale trials, we couldn't reproduce that results in this semi-commercial with the biostimulant. Then the consortium decided not continue with the biostimulant. Okay, was a pity, but that was the results in that part of the project. Then, after all of these trials, we were ready to the commercial trials. We selected different validators from different parts of Europe, Kekkila from the Netherlands, Kiwala in Poland, EuroCham in Spain, and Ekofungi in Serbia, because we want different kind of systems to validate that our two alternative casing soils. Kekkila and Kiwala is the Northern European system. They work with phase 3 in bulk, with automatic climate control growing units, automatic irrigation system, and the capacity of the Kiwala in each growing unit is more or less 45 tons of phase 3, And they carry out 3 trials, and each trial use 2 growing rooms. In the same growing unit, they have the control and one of the alternatives, okay? And in Kekkila, they carry out the same trials, and the capacity of the growing units were more or less 40 tons of phase 3. The production is go to the fresh market mostly, okay? And also we have an example of organic production in Ekofungi. They use phase 2 bags. More or less each bag is 18, 20 kilos. Produce their own compost. They use a semi-automatic climate control growing, irrigation by hand, and the capacity of the Ekofungi rooms is more or less 16 tons of phase 2, and they carry out 12 trials, and each trial use one growing unit. In each growing unit, we have the control and the 2 alternative casing soils. And finally, BIOSCHAMP is the Southern European system. They use phase 2 in bags. Each bag 18, 20 kilos, more or less. Semi-automatic climate control growing units, irrigation by hand, and the capacity of the BIOSCHAMP rooms is 18 tons of phase 2, more or less. They carry out 3 trials, and each trial use 4 growing units. They fill at the same time 2 growing units, one with the control and the other one with the alternative casing soil. And the production is going to the can market mostly. Okay. After all the validators finish their cycle crops, they send us their feedback, and with that feedback, we can make some conclusions. And remember that the validators are from fresh market with modern facilities, can market and organic market, okay? The conclusions were that it's not necessary to estimate alternative casing soils. Chemical analysis shows that the alternative casing soils are suitable for mushroom growth. The watering regime, grass-based casing soils has lower water holding capacity, no significant effect in precocity, and the yields of the alternative casing soils, 50% grass plus 50% peat, and 50% sphagnum moss plus 50% peat, are alternatives that have shown very good results in these trials and are very promising. Grass-based casing soil has a tendency to bacterial rots, and also appears the Coprinus is a fungi, but this Coprinus no have influence on productivity or quality of the mushrooms. It's been observed during the trials that alternative casing soils are more susceptible than traditional peat to crop disease, as Cladobotrium, Mycogone perniciosa, Lecanicillum fungicola, and Trichoderma. And the crop management of this alternative casing soil was very similar to peat, then facilitating the subsequent implementation of the alternative casing materials. Well, also the growers send us their recommendations. That is very important, appropriately mixing and pre-wetting the alternative casing soils before the casing day. Do not irrigate grass and sphagnum-based casing soils like conventional peat. Perhaps the idea will be less water per irrigation, but more frequent waterings. And it's not necessary to steam the alternative casing soils for commercial use. Then we finish the main part of the project at this point, and we can say that the alternative casing soils have unused potential. These 2 ones, the 50% grass and 50% peat, and 50% sphagnum moss plus 50% peat. Then we have two alternatives in the project. Also, as part of the project, and after these results, the consortium made a commercialization strategy. The goal is to introduce these materials into the European mushroom market, ensuring they meet production and market demands. To achieve this, through a commercialization plan, including market analysis, business value assessment, and strategic paths has been developed. A critical aspect of this plan involves understanding the origins and implications of peat supply, exploring production hubs across Europe, and recognizing the key drivers for adopting alternative casing solutions. The introduction of this alternative material requires careful market penetration and supplier optimization. A gradual approach, starting with conservative volumes and scaling up progressively, is essential to minimize risks and ensure long-term success. That gradual market introduction strategy have an initial phase, this proving to growers that the new product performs reliably without disease and with yields and timing similar to the existing casing soils. And to mitigate these risks, the introduction will be begun slowly in the first year. In the first year, the product will be tested with only growers who are open to experimentation. And this collaborative approach with select growers is vital for refining and improving the product. Starting with a capacity of 450 cubic meters of the end product in the first year will suffice for these initial customers. And finally, once the new casing soils effectiveness is proven with this initial customer base, the project can consider expanding production volumes and investing in new factories. This phase approach ensures a solid foundation for wider market penetration, aligning with the long-term vision of sustainable and innovative casing soil solutions. Then also a very important part of the project was the dissemination part. We have a web page, as you see, BIOSCHAMP.eu, where you can see all the results of the project, all the information. And also we have, if I remember properly, a LinkedIn profile. If you search by BIOSCHAMP, you can find it. And we have a lot of material, flyers, different practice abstracts, as you have right now. Some videos with interviewing our industrial partners, for example, divulgation videos. And also we participate in different events as the Mushroom Days. That is one of the most important global events in the mushroom sector around the world. And also we have attended this year the Congress of the International Society for Mushroom Science in Las Vegas, and other events that really I don't remember right now. And also we have some interview in specialized magazines as Mushroom Business, and some papers are writing during this project. Then, thank you very much for coming here. And Africa, no, sorry. If you have any questions, please.
For those online, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. So we see we had some audio issues, so thank you for your patience for everybody online. So one of the first questions we have is how high were the yields? I think you can see them on the screen as well if you want to. Perfect. So if you want to go ahead and
you have to remember that we have different systems in this project: fresh market, canned market, and the organic market. I consider that the yields that we obtained in most of the trials were comparable with the control, with peat. The fruits open later than the control, no. The quality of the mushroom obtained was similar or equal to peat. Where can you see pictures? I think in the BIOSCHAMP website, they can see some pictures. And do you know about Mico project from Germany? Sorry, I am not. Maybe some of my colleagues know about our project, but no. What are the approx prices? Good question. I don't know right now. And I don't know if there are more questions.
Any more questions here from the audience? If no more questions from the chat. Okay, we have here one question from the front.
If they are available, you say at this moment, I think no. And I don't have more information about that part. For experimental purposes, maybe you have to talk with Roxanne.
Yeah. So Roxanne, if you want to answer this question, and then we're going to move on to your presentation. So if you want to be sure about it, and then you can, perhaps you're going to talk more later.
Yes. Yeah, hello. So my name is Roxanne. I'm from Kekkila-BVB. We are a growing media producer, and we're part of a BIOSCHAMP project. So we actually produce the substrate for the project in small amounts, and we could be the ones who commercialize it. We also wrote a commercialization project. So right now we are not yet producing it commercially, but we're looking into how to gradually maybe increase it into the market. But it's not so straightforward because we also have to deal with regulations, especially for the export market. If you have something else than peat, yeah, you can't very easily get it into all the other countries. So we have to look into that, and also the willingness in the mushroom market, so the growers, is not always so good. So they are very conservative. So yeah, as long as there is peat, they tend to go towards using peat. So yeah, we have to be careful there on how to introduce it into the market. So yeah, so we want to start small. You saw in Emilio's presentation just now, the solution was 50% of alternative. This is not the approach that we as Kekkila-BVB want to go to directly. We start slower, maybe with 10%, 20%, and then gradually increase, and also then confirm our supply chain. Yeah.
Thank you, Roxanne. So I see we have. So we had one more question in the chat. We're going to note it down. And since we have 5 minutes till the next presentation, perhaps we can answer this question. Sure. So Emilio, go there to the microphone, please.
Oh.
Yeah, that works. Perfect.
They ask, as the biostimulants hasn't worked in semi-commercial trials, what is the project recommendation for the future to reduce the use of pesticides in the mushroom production? Okay. The biostimulant in the semi-commercial trials is true that didn't work, but I think that maybe a future of the reducing the use of pesticides is in the biostimulants, and also the future. Europe is legislation a lot about the use of pesticides. Then the growers need to learn. I think is my personal opinion. Okay, don't kill me. I think that the future is good manners in the crop, hygienization of the growing units, and maybe bio solutions also is a a good future for the mushroom sector.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I see one very last question. Perhaps, Emilia, if you can pass Helen the microphone.
So what were the biostim, when you say they didn't work, was that they didn't increase yield, or was it in conjunction with pathogen inoculation?
When we say that the biostimulant didn't work, is because we didn't notice increase in productivity, quality, or in the disease incidence. The three, okay? Was similar with the part of the trials that were on treatment.
Were the biostimulants used in conjunction with pathogen inoculation and no effect at that stage? No, okay.
Okay, so we are running short of time. We need to move on to the next presentation. Thank you so much for all your questions. And we're moving on to the section about peat in Europe, future challenges. For the first presentation, we have Roxanne, who is researcher from Kekkila-BVB, and she has previously introduced herself, and she is here to talk to us about growing smarter for healthier food and greener living. So everyone everyone online, please note your questions, and we will get to them by the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Africa, and thank you all for being here today. Well, I will tell you today about Kekkila-BVB's vision on the future use of peat and alternative raw materials. We are a grow media producer, and we produce mushroom substrate, but not only that, a lot more. Also potting soils for the professional market and retail, and also substrate for landscaping and a little bit for animal beddings. Our key message is that we want to grow smarter for healthier food and greener living. There is nowadays a societal responsibility that all of us have to address. We all know that the worldwide situation regarding environmental stability is critical, and Kekkila-BVB in that sense is committed to smarter growing, again, by ensuring optimal yields and healthy plants while minimizing the environmental impacts. Our goal is to provide the best growth performance in the most sustainable way. So here are 6 societal trends that we feel we are most challenged by. They all provide challenges, but also business opportunities for us. The first one is there is urbanization. By 2050, 2/3 of the planet's population is expected to be living in urban areas. There's an ecosystem decline. Ecosystems are threatened globally through pollution and unsustainable land use. There's an inequality due to the lack of access to resources, education, healthcare, or equal treatment, which needs to be addressed. There's climate destabilization due to the release of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, causing extreme weather events. There's a food crisis. The reliability and affordability of nutritious food is at risk, driven by increasing demand and pressure on agriculture. And there is a resource scarcity, increasing demand for both non-renewable and renewable resources now, puts pressure on supplies and creates more disruptive extraction. Well, our key message is growing smarter for healthier food and greener living. So healthier food, growing media are needed to safely and efficiently feed the world. Greenhouse production yields approximately 50% more per area than field production, and it uses 50 to 60% less water and fertilizer, and more safe and hygienic end products for food production. So yeah, that is a huge responsibility. And nature-based solutions create healthy, biodiverse, and climate-proof urban areas. In cities, greener cities provide water buffer and cooling in hot summers, and it provides social cohesion to the population. So being around green areas reduces your stress and improves your health recovery and your well-being in general. So remember that gardening is good for you. What does smart growing mean to us? We made it an abbreviation where the S is for being sustainable for the whole value chain. The M is for maximum yield, availability of raw materials, resource efficiency, and we do it always together with our customers. So how do we see the future of substrates? Last year, there was a scientific report produced by Wageningen University in the Netherlands predicting the global growing media market from a period to 2017 to 2050. And first of all, look at the total use of global growing media is expected to quadruple from 67 million cubic meter per year to 283 cubic meter per year in the coming, well, let's say 25 years. And if you then look in the first row, the peat use is not quadrupling. So especially if you look in the percentage of peat being used in this total amount of growing media, in the year 2017, 60% of the recipes exist of peat, and in 2050 is 28%. So the peat percentage will reduce, but if you look at the absolute numbers, it's still rising. So 40 million cube in 2017 to 80 million, so it's actually doubling in the year 2050. So this all due to the demand for growing media. Already in the year 2017, alternatives were being used for the growing media production, especially coir, wood fiber, bark, and perlite. And these are also expected to grow. And there is a new area arising, which goes from 0 in 2017 to expected amount of 65 million cube per year globally in 2050. So what are examples of new growing media, which we think are useful in growing media? These are sphagnum moss, which was already introduced in the BIOSCHAMP project by Emilio. Grasses, also in the BIOSCHAMP project for mushrooms. Reuse substrate and digestate. Kekkila-BVB has introduced a big program in the innovations department called Green Growth Raw Materials Program. Together with our customers and partners, we systemically look for new sustainable and safe growing media solutions to complement the established ones. And growers are expected to both favor the use of peat for its good properties, but also to increase the share of other raw materials to meet the growing volumes that I just showed you, but also the sustainability requirements that might come from governments. We aim to extend our raw material basis in a more renewable and more recyclable and more sustainable direction. So already in 2021, Kekkila-BVB was using a total amount of circular raw materials of 1.5 million cubic meters. And we target to double that to 3 million cubic meters in the year 2027. This is actually a huge target which we aim for. So how do we actually define circular materials? We define it as being organic raw materials either from a renewable resource or reused or recycled. Relevant examples are for reused raw material, well, actually reusing a substrate for another purpose without any processing. For example, shampoos coming from the mushroom industry, which can be used for potting soil in the retail. Or recycled raw material, recycling green waste to use also for potting soil, but then it includes a processing step, for example, composting or fermentation. And then renewable raw materials, which we expect a lot from, which are the organic materials that are naturally being replenished, like coir, wood, bark, or grass. We have two major projects in our innovations schedule at the moment. The first one being reed canary grass cultivation in former peat production areas, reviving the former peat production areas that we have used before. Reed canary grass is a crop species that grows really well in wet environments. And in 2023, our mother company, Neova Group, has invested in 800 hectares of own reed canary grass cultivation areas in Finland. And during 2024, we aim to double that area. So momentarily, we are doing a lot of research on applying reed canary grass into our grow media substrates. And the first minimum viable products are already proven to be suitable for ornamentals and bedding plant production. In the picture, you see a field of reed canary grass growing on the top, and in the bottom is how we after harvesting. The second big project is a sphagnum cultivation in former peat production areas. Sphagnum moss, which can consist of over 400 different species of moss, is a renewable raw material that grows on peatlands as well, and can be harvested sustainably from non-natural degraded peatlands that were previously drained for forestry. And also there, our mother company, Neova Group, in the period from 22 to 24, has invested on 60 hectares of own sphagnum moss cultivation areas. These fields are established in former energy peat production areas after raising the water level. Sphagnum moss grows approximately 10 millimeters per year. This means after harvesting, the moss regrows very quickly. And we have rendered sphagnum moss as BVB ag ratio for our own use. Okay, then, of course, we have to look into the sustainability of this alternative green growth raw materials. Within our own sustainability department, Kekkila-BVB has developed a future fit program, and we consider the whole value chain has to be involved to be sustainable, with fit for purpose being our starting point. This means that we look into five key aspects, starting with the responsible sourcing of raw materials, then going to lean and green logistics, then going to safe and efficient production, and then our starting point, fit for purpose, and then we look also into a valuable second life after use. Well, as said, we want to start with being fit for purpose. What does that mean? It means the effectiveness of our solutions is a starting point for any new development. If a solution is not fit for purpose, it's a waste of energy, materials, water, and labor for the whole value chain. So we identified 7 aspects that we consider key to being fit for purpose, and we give that a score, and then from 0 to 100%, and make I always call it a spider web from that, and the area it covers represents a very visual image on how it is fit for purpose for our customer. Part of this is also being climate resilient and circular, looking into the environmental impact, which I'll return to in one of my next slides. First, before that, I want to remind you that peat is still our key raw material and will remain so, but we do everything to be responsibly producing using responsibly produced peat, RPP. Responsibly produced peat certification ensures that peatland will be used, managed, and restored in a responsible way. The RPP organization is a non-profit organization existing of people from the peat producing industry, grow media industry, non-governmental organizations, and environmental scientists from universities. The RPP certification secures the best possible development after completion of peat production with preference for restoration. Kekkila-BVB aims to have 80% of used peat under this RPP certification by 2025 and 100% by the year 2030. Then, looking more closely into the environmental impact, we calculate for every of our raw materials that we use a PEF score, PEF. It stands for a product environmental footprint. This is a methodology invented by the European Commission that provides uniformity for all grow media producers on how to score sustainability. And it encompasses not only CO2 footprint, but also other environmental effects like freshwater eutrophication, soil eutrophication, land use, particulate matter, and water deprivation. And in the first column, then is the N score, like a single score in millipoints. This is an N score that averages all of the other ones that are the columns that are behind that. And then the color represents the environmental impact. So red means high impact, green means low impact. And then, well, the list of raw materials that you see here in the slide is on alphabetical order. And in the top is peat, black peat, but also almost in the bottom is white peat. So just for your own visualization and comparison. And the rest of is alternative raw materials. Yeah, and this is a way also to see where what is the end score, but also where when it is a high environmental footprint, where does it come from? And you see that renewables such as reed canary grass and sphagnum moss are always really green, which is good. Then we also
Hello, Roxanne. Quick note, just for you, you have a few minutes to finish your presentation.
This is the last slide. So is that can I still do?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we did this PEF assessment for casing soil, the BIOSCHAMP solution with BVB accretion, which is sphagnum moss, but compared to our casing soil standard. And we have now introduced a commercial product, BVB accretion, with 10% of sphagnum moss. And we are looking into a new commercial product with an extra additive, which we call BVB accretion plus. And we calculate the PEF score, and you see the impact that it has on the environment. So the BIOSCHAMP solution has 3 millipoints again on environmental impact in total. And if you compare it to CO2 emissions, it's pretty similar as the PEF score. So all of the environmental footprint comes from the CO2 emissions gain from using sphagnum moss compared to peat. And just to put it in perspective, I thought it would be nice to compare it to the impact of my return flight today and from Amsterdam to Madrid, which has an environmental impact of 21 millipoints. So just to put it into a perspective. So with that, I thank you for your attention. And yeah, this is a reminder of our key goals of Kekkila-BVB.
So if anyone has any questions, I see their hand raised in the audience. I'm going to go for the microphone.
Hello, Roxanne. I was very shocked by the projections of the increase of the need of growing media that you show for 2030 and even more for 2050. Why? Which are the reasons of this super strong increase for this need of growing media?
Thank you for your question. Well, it's just two things: population growth and less land available for field production. So more goes to grow media production indoors, like vertical farms or like that.
Any more questions from the audience here in person? Okay, we have one more here.
Very interesting presentation, thank you. I'm just interested in the reed canary grass. So where is that in terms of development? Are you using that already in mixes with good effect?
Yes, as I showed in the presentation, especially in ornamentals and bedding plants, it works really well. So it especially improves the drainage of grow media. So.
Okay, I'm going to move on to questions from the chat. So there are no questions from the chat at the moment. Okay. So we have that comment that we can see here. We have done 100% trial, it works, and mushrooms are healthy. So thank you for the comment. Very well. So we are going to move on to the next presentation. For this presentation, we're going to have Helen Grogan. Helen is a researcher from Teagasc, Ashtown Food Research Center, specialized in plant pathologies and the mushroom sector. Helen is going to talk to us about research into alternatives to peat in the mushroom sector.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me to give it this presentation. I'm afraid I have to apologize. I don't have my PowerPoint presentation. I left that behind in the hotel, so apologies for that. I'm going to work off a PDF version that I sent earlier in the week. I have cut out some slides, so I'll just go through those more quickly. Okay, so I think I have to move with, okay. So the outline of my talk will be looking at a review report that we did called The Future of Casing, Review of Casing Materials and Availability of Peat for Mushroom Cultivation. And this was funded by the Australian Mushroom Growers Association. And this was done with my colleagues Ralph Noble, Owen Corbett and Greg Seymour. And then I'm not going to go into much detail on the review paper by my colleague Gabrielle Young, but I will go into more detail on some of the Beyond Peat research trials that we've done. I'm going to go through those. As we know, the regulatory landscape is very dynamic regarding peat, hence our interest in looking at peat alternatives for mushroom casing. So apologies now for this. So we know, so what will the mushroom casing of the future be? We know casing is a critical component for productivity. It has very important physical, chemical and biological roles to play. It requires good management for optimum performance, and our growers do this really, really well and grow really good quality mushrooms. And to switch over to peat is going to be a big challenge for the industry. As we've seen already, we're going to need more research to optimize performance of these alternative materials. So in this review we did for the Australian Mushroom Growers Association, we drew up a list of alternatives, and I think Roxanne already listed quite a number of those. And this morning also we saw lists of potential alternatives. And so in this review, which is available on the ISMS website for free, you just have to register with the ISMS. We've listed all of the products that have been looked at in terms of research for mushroom casing, the advantages and the disadvantages, and some key research papers that have been written regarding them. So I have the list in two parts. So this first part, we think maybe bark is one of the more interesting products that might be used going forward. Coir is interesting in terms of that it is very effective, but as we saw earlier, it's also got a high environmental footprint. So in the future, perhaps this may not be of much use to us in Europe. Other materials, we've maybe identified spent mushroom compost as a good potential alternative. Again, there's been a lot of research done with this showing good performance. And so it may be one of the peat alternatives going forward. There are also inorganic substrates like clays, ground limestone, sugar mill mud. So these are other materials that have good properties that may be used in potential peat alternative mushroom casing blends. It's just showing some pictures there of some of those materials. we'd like them to look a bit like peat. We're used to handling peat, but that's not necessarily essential in the long run. There are some commercially available products. I think we heard this morning about the NUFOS grass-based fiber products. Cormo is another company making plant-based fibers that can be used in mushroom casing. These companies are also working with mushroom producers, so therefore hopefully we get some good data coming out on their performance. And as we heard this morning, the sphagnum moss also a useful potential alternative ingredient there. This graph, I'm afraid, hasn't come out very well in the PDF format. Basically, it just, one of the most important features of peat-based casing is the water holding capacity and the water release dynamics. And really, the good peat, deep dug wet peats that we use have very good water holding capacity, and they hold onto that water. And if you could see it, there's a black line in between the red and the green there that goes down. So with the showing a slow water release after a certain point in time. The wood fiber is the dotted line on the left-hand side. So it gives up the water very quickly, and sugar beet lime is the yellow line here on the right-hand side, holds onto the water very tightly. So if we can get a mixture of ingredients that give us a water release curve that's somewhere in the middle there between the red and the green, that will be ideal. I'm not going to go through that. So we have got a paper published just recently, a review of the research that has been done on peat alternatives by Young et al. 2024. And here we've looked at the literature to see what the results are in terms of significantly improved yields or not significantly differently improved yields compared to a control for various types of peat-free casing mixes. And as we can see here, a lot of research has been done with spent mushroom compost, SMC, half of which have been not significantly different to the control. So that bodes well for the future. But there are some other interesting materials there too. And in terms of peat reduced, so this is where an ingredient is mixed with peat. Again, there's some good results there for various different products. So that paper you can have a look at in your own time. I want to move on to our casing trials now. So we've looked at, we have this government-funded project called Beyond Peat, where we're looking at peat alternatives for the mushroom sector and also for horticulture in general. But I'm just going to focus on the mushroom sector here today. And so we did some trials looking at the potential of wood-based products as alternative components in mushroom casing. We have a mushroom growing unit at our research centre in Dublin, similar to those shown this morning. And we grow in crates with a 0.2 metre square surface area, and we grow these on Dutch shelves in a controlled environment. So the experiments that I want to talk to you about this morning, we have two replicate trials with 10 treatments each. So the treatment one is our control wet dug peat casing. And then we had 3 materials, potential alternatives: wood fibre, uncomposted bark, and composted bark. And these we replaced at rates of 30, 50, and 70%. We think there will be a push towards peat-free. We're very conscious of that. Being driven perhaps in Britain, there's big demand for peat-free. So that's where our market is. So we need to be getting good results with peat-free materials. But we're not quite there yet in this trial, just 30, 50 or 70% replacement of the peat. In terms of casing characterization, these 10 treatments, so they're all along the line, T1 to T10. In terms of bulk density, pH and EC, they were all generally in a good area. But in terms of volumetric water content, which we know is an important factor, there were some differences with the wood fibres, water content increasing with the more wood fibre was present, and the bark compost, the water content decreasing the more that the bark content increased. So here are the results from our 2 flushes, our 2 trials. Over 3 flushes. The bar on the left-hand side in both graphs is our control. And we have category A and category B mushrooms. from both these trials. So we can see at a glance there that our wood fiber mixes actually perform very well and very not significantly different to our controls over the two trials. So this was very promising. I will say that it's important to know that there are many different types of wood fiber. And so it's important that when you're working with a material, you know what it is, that it's consistent, and you can rely on it over time. This is where some differences can occur in the literature. Different sources of materials, all listed as wood fiber, may perform differently. So it's important to be able to characterize each material that you're using and that you have access to it consistently over time. The uncomposted bark performed the least well there. Very high proportion of category B mushrooms. These would be more open mushrooms. And the composted bark, we had good yields in total, but again, a very high proportion generally in the first trial of open mushrooms. Second trial, it was a bit better, performed more similar to the control. So again, interesting results there from our composted bark. And again, interesting results over the 30, 50 and 70% replacement level. So this is quite promising for us going forward. I will say the management of these crops can be a bit challenging. So you do have to learn how to grow mushrooms again. And here's just a picture of the first trial where what we did notice was that there was crop delay with all of the treatments, apart from the control in the first trial. And you can see this visually. T1 is our control, and you can see that the mushrooms are coming through more slowly on all of the other treatments. In the second trial, we were better with the timing and the growing. So the results from the second trial are better than the results from the first trial. So there is, we do have to learn how to grow mushrooms again, really, with these new materials. So part of the trial is also monitoring casing performance. We know water is very important. So we were using two types of sensor here to measure moisture content and also moisture tension over the course of the crop. And so we have got some lovely data on water release curves for the different materials. So this is for our control treatment, our 100% peat casing mix. And we can see the volumetric water content here on the bottom, dropping during the first flush, increasing after the watering between flushes, dropping again, increasing after second flush, dropping again slightly and increasing with further waterings. If we look at the matrix potential of the casing water, that is a measure of the water being drawn off that casing mix by the mushrooms. We can see, we don't have the data, unfortunately, for the first flush. The sensor wasn't working, but in the second flush there, you can see a steady decline in the matrix potential, rising again to 0 when water was reapplied, dropping again during the third flush as mushrooms were being produced, and again increasing once water was applied again at the end of the flush. So that's a good curve to see for matrix potential and volumetric water content. If we look onto the wood fiber treatments here, we actually have very nice curves, again, similar to the controls, which was very promising. So very, very similar curves there. And this is what we will be looking for in a potentially good peat alternative mix. So this is what you want to see during your crop. Might take a bit of management, crop management to get there, but this is the sort of curves that you want to see. So in our uncomposted bark trials, we can see that the water characteristics are much more erratic there in comparison with the control. The control is the black line, and we can see the other coloured green lines are a bit all over the place, so not a good result. No second flush. We had a big delay between first and second flush with our uncomposted bark, and the whole crop was delayed, so the third flush came off much, much later. And similarly with the composted bark, more erratic water curves being recorded over the course of the crop. Again, which is not ideal. We would like to see those much better. We did have better curves in the second trial. I don't have that data here, unfortunately. So just to conclude then, we can see that the yields from the wood fibre blends were not significantly different in terms of Class A mushrooms to our control. So that was really positive. For the composted bark treatment, so the ones highlighted here in orange, we got good biomass production, poor quality A mushrooms, but we did improve that quality in the second trial. So there's room for management here in terms of improving how crops are watered, maybe less and more often, maybe less overall. We have to work with that to see what gives us the best results, and also to try and increase that I do believe we can increase that quality of mushroom from the composted bark material. We definitely need to be looking at changes to the agronomic approach when we're looking at peat alternative mixes, because they're a different casing. My colleagues say, well, if we can get the peat out altogether, maybe that might help, because actually sometimes it's the peat that is impacted more by heavy watering or less watering. So we need to review casing mixes. And also in terms of batch consistency. So these were the one single batch of material for the composted bark and the uncomposted bark. But we've have data from another trial where we had different batches of bark and they performed differently. So there is this need to work with companies like the guys producing these raw materials in order to get them to try and produce a much more consistent material over time, because again, we need this. Mushroom casing is made every week, so we need a constant supply of good quality material over time. And I think that's it from me. Just to acknowledge the team behind the report and our PhD student, Gabrielle Young, who did some of the review work. Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
If there are any questions, please raise your hands.
Thank you for a very interesting talk. Yeah, you already talked a little bit about the variability of wood fiber that is important to look at, and also the stability of the composted bark. This is very interesting. So can you elaborate a little bit on what was your wood fiber blend, what was the particle size of it, and also of the composted bark, and yeah.
Yeah, so the wood fiber was a proprietary product being supplied with given assurances of consistency. So that was one thing we have. I'm not at liberty to say what that is just yet. And in the composted bark, my colleague Owen Corbett should be able to give you more information on the stability of that. But yes, these are things that we have to look at going forward. I don't have the information on that at the moment.
Pietro?
Thanks very much. Pietro Goglio from the University of Perugia. I want to focus on 2 points. The first one, you said that the wood fiber, you don't know the composition, so you don't know what is the source of the wood fiber. Okay. And the second question is what is the source of the composted bark? I mean, which species are we talking about? And what type of composting process has been carried out? That might be something relevant.
Okay, so the wood fiber is a pine wood fiber produced by a company, and the bark is spruce bark. Sitka spruce bark is the Irish source of that material. We grow Sitka spruce, so it's a local source of bark. And the composting process is just windrowing it for a number of months until it becomes stable. It's being produced by a media grower, so we have confidence that their process is consistent But at the same time, we need to work with that material. We haven't worked with that material before in mushroom casing. So these are our first trials with this source of composted bark.
Thank you, Helen. I just have one last question regarding the wood fiber. From a producer's point of view, we've done some trials with wood fiber as well, and you notice that with these type of fibers, there's a lot of mixing loss. You know, when you mix different materials, in our case, in any case, there's a loss when you mix, but particularly with wood fiber, there's a high mixing loss. Is that also being considered in these trials, or is it just a trial to prove whether it works or not? Because from a commercial point of view, that's the next step.
First off, I have to say is that we are also learning how to grow mushrooms now with new blends. So we're learning how to learn how to handle these materials. And yes, there are sometimes issues with the wood fiber mixing. Yeah, that's all I can say is that we have to learn how to handle them. And we talk with our casing producers and the material producers to give us advice on how best to handle them when we're preparing our casing mixes. But as I say, there's a lot of new learning to be done with handling these new blends, and we're learning too.
Okay, I'm going to get to the questions in the chat, and Helen, I think you can read them on your screen as well. So we have the first question, which is, what would you say is the best alternative from peat?
Difficult to answer that one. From our work to date, with our partial replacement, the wood fiber is working well. I think we hope that the bark will work well. That might depend on where you are and what your source of wood fiber and bark are. So it may be a different answer in a different part of the world, because products will vary from one region to the other. Okay, so do you plan to use spent mushroom compost in our research? At the moment, we're looking into that. We have to be able to manage spent mushroom compost, first of all, and recompost it. We are aware of work going on with spent mushroom compost as a peat alternative for casing, so we don't really want to replicate that if some good data comes out of it. But at the moment, we are considering generating our own pile of spent mushroom compost also for experimentation. Have you invested? Oh, a very good question. As mentioned earlier, these new products have can potentially raise new issues. And so what we are doing is getting analysis done on all the batches of materials that we have in terms of heavy metals or undesirable microbiology. But yes, this is something that will have to be taken into consideration going forward. And just on that as well, I know green waste compost was mentioned earlier this morning as a potentially good material. While this is true, sometimes there can be materials mixed in with green waste composting, glass material, for example, which would be undesirable and means that maybe we wouldn't use it in the food production side of use of alternatives.
Thank you, Helen. I believe we don't have more questions. So we're going to move on to the last presentation of this first part of the event. And for that, I'm going to call forward Ivanka Milenkovic. Ivanka is the CEO of Ekofungi, and she has great experience in the agricultural sector in Serbia, and she is a permanent expert at SERI.
Does it work? Yeah. Good morning, good day, everyone. Thank you, BIOSCHAMP, for inviting me to have a few words, and I'm here on behalf of the growers. I'm not here on behalf of the compost makers or casing producer or scientist, I would like to share with you a few words from the point of view of one ordinary grower who is facing with serious problems regarding casing, production, composting, and everything. So I would like at the beginning just to remind and to explain how it's possible that I, like relatively small growers from Balkan, can talk on behalf of all growers. Just because our mushroom growing technology is the same for everyone and everywhere. All what we are doing is in fact simulation of the processes which are going in the nature. So what we have incubation under the worm and heavy conditions, and all of a sudden some storm is happening, and that storm encouraged the fruit body to be formed. So that's all what we are doing in our growing unit. Of course, in the nature, except cellulolytic mushrooms, which do not need the casing, we have a thin layer on the top of the substrate, which maintain humidity, provide the fantastic flora, microorganism population, which support our mushroom to grow, and keep what is very and had been used like a small tank for the mushroom mycelium, which drink the water from that tank and form the fruit body. And that humidificated layer on the top of the soil in the nature, normally made by leaves, by branches, by different sort of the material, in our growing unit is casing. And without matter, we are big, ultra modern, like my colleague from Poland here is, or very small one who produced the mushroom in garage in order to survive or to have a fun, doesn't matter. We are facing with the same problem. And proportion of the problem is the same. For the big producer, problem it will make a big trouble, and vice versa. But we have to think about the alternative, because the casing we are facing with the critical one. I will tell you one experience from life. During the 90s and all that trouble what we have on Balkan, in one moment we could not be able to be supplied by the casing from anywhere. You know, we didn't have, the most important supplier was from Bosnia, then from Hungary, everything was closed, everything was blocked, everything was totally, and mushroom growing, which had been very surprisingly start to flush. Why? Because of the Pizza Hut, because of the bakeries and everything. So demand for the mushroom increased, and the raw material was totally stopped to come in. So in that moment, we have done some, in that moment, I will say, we have done something which had been must for us, to provide something which will fulfill the request of the casing, to have water capacity, to protect humidity, but most important, I will say, to have a specific microorganism flora which will help primordia to grow and to be formed at the beginning. And when we are talking about casing, a quality of casing, very often we are talking about the water holding capacity and all about the water and management, but we forget that the most important aspect of the casing is the specific biology population which exists and which support primordia to be formed. And what happened? I will skip this presentation because I really don't want to repeat everything what we learned this morning. We start to work with the bark. During the 90s, we applied the bark in commercial scale, and that's why I would say it was composting bark, which was stayed 40 years on the top of some stock in some paper industry. And we had a really very good result. Results had been like this. This is something what we recently measured. Of course, the water holding capacity is not very big. The problems are huge, but in compare with the transport cost, what you could see before on some slide, with an example I count from Kekkila, from Holland to here to Spain is about 1,500 kilometers. From Kekkila to Serbia in Ekofungi, what we are going to realize now, it is also 1,500 kilometers. Do you know how much it cost? It cost a fortune. It cost more than the value of the casing on the track. So what is alternative? Alternative is to find solution how to replace that fantastic material what today we use, what is peat, by something what can be used in the future. Thanks of the BioSCHAMP project, we learn that there is alternative, that we had the grass mixture, sphagnum mixture. We passed through the all experimental trials very successfully. That is one. Second, from the personal experience and large scale growing, I can confirm that bark can be very well and very much used. Of course, scientists will make a million negative comments, and of course that ultra big growers will not be fully happy. But if I can compare the transport cost from North Europe to Belgrade with the material, what is available 100 kilometers far away, then mathematics says that at the end of the day, we have to think about with open-minded. And at the end, I would say, growers are looking for alternatives. And growers are looking for alternatives, honestly speaking, not because they are wondering about sustainability very much. Of course, we are wondering, but we must survive every day and to pay the salary to our labor. So if we have all that mathematics on the table, then alternative which can be provided locally, but which I think that maybe can be focused on some of the next our discussion, is the best option for all. And also, I would like now to send a message, if somebody will hear the message on behalf of the growers. Mushroom growing industry is very well used, like an example of circularity, sustainability, social businesses and everything. And we are very thankful for that. However, mushroom growing industry need urgent action towards solving of our pest and diseases problem. Our problems are huge. We do not have nothing to help us in order to defend us of mycogona, verticillium, cobweb, dactylium, coal, whatever you want. We have only one or maybe two biological tools for fighting against scarids. And that's all what we have. So I will kindly ask, I saw in the auditorium, online auditorium, eminent scientists, and also I would also ask our BioSCHAMP leaders, when they are talking about this project to European Commission and policymakers, to take into the consideration that without finding a proper solution for our daily problems, all story about the casing and casing alternatives will falling down because we will not have the mushroom industry. Thank you.
Ivanka, wait a second, just in case there are any questions. Any questions from the audience? Oh, yes, we have a hand raised.
Did you say, interesting talk, Ivanka, did you say the composted bark was 40 years old? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it was from the beginning of 50s. It was the huge paper industry in nearby the border between Serbia and Belgium and Bosnia, and still exists. let's say, source. If you ask me what sort of tree was, it is mainly poplar tree, because poplar had been used for the paper industry in that time very intensively, and all bark which had been collected just stayed for nothing. So we used that. And we have done a really serious investigation, but I just didn't want to talk. We can send to you a lot of details about that.
Is there a lot available still?
Yeah.
There's still a lot available.
Yeah, it is available. It is available. And what is the nonsense? It makes a problem. Because it is now a very interesting location on the river Sava bank, and people don't know, but it is there is a huge quantity. And we also have done an investigation for the heavy metals and everything, because from time to time we use that material, and there is two aspects what has to be taken into the consideration. First, there is no traces of the heavy metals and nothing, because how it is possible, I don't know. I know because every single time when we use that, we have to check and confirm the food safety aspect of the material. And second, as biologist, I would say that this material I use personally in my mushroom production, because we are organic and we are really okay, and conventional producer has a lot of tools, but for us it is difficult. When I have a heavy infection, on example, by mycogona, because of the bad quality casing, what we had from time to time, locally supplied, then I use that bark, and that is for me the best tool to stop infection by Mycogona perniciosa, because Mycogona does not grow naturally on the bark. It is the soil mushroom. So that is our tool to prevent spreading of mainly Mycogona. And honestly, I did not have a problem with trichoderma with the bark, never. Not never, but almost just not significant.
Any more questions? So we have a question in the chat. You can read it in your screen as well. So in urban areas or in the vicinity of industrial plants, the concentration of heavy metals in the bark is often higher. Common pollutants are lead, cadmium, zinc, and mercury.
We have done the checking. First of all, it is not a humificated bark from the urban area. That humificating bark had been collected from the plantage, or this is the waste material after the paper industry processing, and the raw material or logs, which had been used like a source of the bark, had been normally growing outside of the cities. However, I agree that is always very tricky in urban areas, but it is always very tricky for all sorts of the urban farming and production, because we promote urban farming and promote urban production, but then we have to be aware that the city is not the best place for the good agriculture food. So I agree that it can be tricky. In our case, we did not have that problem because of the origin of the raw material, but urban farming has advantages and disadvantages.
So thank you so much, Ivanka. Oh, we have one more question. So do you use this casing currently in your commercial production?
Right now, yes. Right now, yes, because when we finished the BIOSCHAMP experimental trial, we did not have any other materials, so we had some certain problems with the diseases. We discussed about that, and now we have used that in our production. It is not the best option. I will be much more happy that we have something better, and I hope that we will have from Holland soon, which means that again we are going to face with the high expenses. But what we can do in all that ups and downs, we have to find the best solution. So I don't know who sent this question, but we will soon publish that on our website, not like a scientific paper, just like information.
Fantastic. And I think, yes, no more questions. No more questions from the audience. We're good. So thank you so much, Ivanka. Well, hello and welcome everyone. We're back from the coffee break from the second part of the final event of the BIOSCHAMP project. In the second part, we're going to talk now about pesticides in Europe. Is European agriculture ready for a future without chemical pesticides? We have different speakers to talk about this. And the first one is Ignacio de Anchorena. Ignacio de Anchorena, he is an agricultural engineer and business manager from BASF. And he's going to talk to us about integrated pest management for successful mushroom production. You have to stand up close to the desk.
All right. Okay, first of all, thank you, Setich and BIOSCHAMP for this opportunity. It's very good to be here to learn and understand the situation from first sight, and to have different stakeholders from the mushroom production as growers and also investigators or input providers. So I'm here to bring the input provider point of view, the manufacturer point of view of chemicals. Yes, and as Ivanka mentioned, we have an issue here, and we have I mean, lack of solutions for the mushroom industry. And first of all, before starting with our presentation, I would like to introduce myself. She introduced me, but I'm Ignacio. I'm an agronomist from Argentina, and I'm representing BASF in the mushroom production, and not only mushroom, but many other crops that we have in covered with our BASF solutions. But BASF is not only agricultural. You might know BASF from the cassettes. And we are a chemical company. We create chemistry, and we have 6 different types of big how to say segments. And one of those segments is the agricultural solutions. So one of our biggest topics right now in Europe, especially, is our 2050 mission, especially from this Green Pact that we have settled. The politicians have settled, but this is something that we have in common, and is something that we can't avoid. Maybe yesterday the dialogue is starting. I mean, growers are starting to complain about this pact, this Green Deal, and maybe it has some changes, but it is what it is, and European Union is going through that way, and we as a company, we need to comply to those statements, and one of these statements is to be zero net emissions by 2050. Yeah, and in order to do that, we as a company, we need to reduce our chemical-based products and move towards more sustainable products. So sustainability is a big word here. So our strategy to do that is through innovations, through bringing new products, more sustainable products, also through digitalization. Yes, we are not only a chemical company right now, we are providing digital solutions to the farmers. Actually, right now for mushroom, we don't have any solution, but we will have in the future for these digital topics. And also, as I mentioned, the sustainability, and of course, for sure, customer experience. We need to be close to the farmers, more closer than any moment in the past. So I want to give a short brief about what means to us to bring a new product to the market. Yes, because maybe we think that it's something easy, and it's not. Actually, it's very hard, and it takes, as you can see, in average 11 years to develop and bring into the market a new product. And that's because for example, the pharmaceutical industry, our products are tested and tested and tested. So these products have been passed through a lot of tests before being in the market. So in terms of safetiness, we have products that have been tested in several situations in many countries before the launch into the market. And also it means a big investment. Right now, to develop a new product, it's 290 million euros through 11 years. That means 60,000 euros per day to develop a new product. And that's one of the reasons why we have some lack of products in the market. And that's because right now we don't have the proper company from the authorities, especially. Why? Because we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. So to do this investment through 11 years, it's very difficult for a company that brings new products to develop something without knowing that we were able to launch it or not. We might not be able to launch it, and we might be in year 5 and already spend 200 million euros. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why right now the mushroom industry is passing through some difficult times in terms of solutions or new chemical solutions. So one of the processes that we are trying to deal with is to use the mushroom as a minor crop and use the big crops in order to develop this product, in order to launch it, and after that launch, use that molecule, test it with some, I mean, in Spain, and many other countries in Europe, with the authorities in order to get the right MRLs, and with the right MRLs and the approval, we can approve the product into the mushroom industry as a minor crop. Yes. And so with this situation, it's very important to understand that integrated pest management here is the key, because we will not relieve in only one product for fungicides or only one product for insecticides. So we know the main pests for mushrooms, right? And right now we don't have, I mean, fungicides or insecticides are only one part of the solution. And here the key is the integrated pest management. And integrated pest management doesn't mean to apply a fungicide in the right time or to apply an insecticide. It means safety measures. It means sanitary measures. It means to use filters in the ventilation ducts. It means to be more prepared and to have more safety measures than rely in one product or one solution. Yes. And this is where we are going. And it's not because of BASF, it's not because of the growers. It's because of we as as people, as society, we are looking for more sustainable solutions, and we have a deal, and this Green Deal is leading us towards this. And this is something that it's happening, and we must maybe, I mean, sustainability for some is one thing and for others is another thing, but the Green Pact, unfortunately or fortunately, is happening. And the only solution from our side is not to rely only in products, rather than rely in management, integrated pest management, production management. Yes, all this is what matters. So right now, BASF has some products in the market, like Sporgon, who's not in the market anymore in the European Union, but still in the UK. But then we have Nemesis, Vivando, and Serifel. 2 of these products are biologicals, right? So we have only one product for chemical synthesis and 2 biological products, and this is where we are going. We are going towards biological solutions. We are going towards more sustainable products. We are going towards greener solutions. Unfortunately, I know, Ivanka, it's very difficult, but as I mentioned earlier, to do this investment is not an easy deal for companies that in the past were developing lots of and many molecules, and right now we need to rely, and we are moving towards that process. We're moving towards more biological and sustainable production, right? So we have nemesis for the phorids and cearids flies. We tested the nemesis for phorids, which is something that didn't test it in the past, and we see that it's working. So it's something very, very good and nice to have. And for sure, the Vivando and Serifel can be helpful for green mold and dry bubble, right? So, sorry. Yeah. So, Serifel, it's I mean, it's approved in some countries in the European Union. In some others, it's not. But it's a very, very good solution. It's a biological solution, yes, and it can keep the green mold outside the compost very good and properly. So, and Vivando right now is I want to put Vivando as an example of having not the best practices or not using the product as it is meant to be used. Because right now in Spain, for example, we are having lots of issues with resistant management with Vivando. And that's because we lost Sporgon, we lost the active ingredient is changed. So the only fungicide that the growers has now is the Vivando, and then they use it and they use it and they use it, and they created resistance. And now it's not working as it worked in the past. And this is something that we need to, as growers, we need to understand that the companies, it's not like in the past that we can bring solutions every year and new products every year. So we need to keep and try to understand and try to, yes, understand that these products needs to be well cared from our side, but also from the grower side in order to have a more sustainable product during the days and the future, right? And the nemesis, as mentioned, the nematodes are very good to control the larvae for flies, for cearid and phorid flies. And it's an example, a good example of having developed something nice for the growers in the biological side. We as BSF have the biggest nematode factory in the world. It's based in the UK, and we provide nematodes to the whole world through this factory in the UK. So right now is from the manufacturer point of view, what I want you to keep as message is the days where we launch a product every year are gone, and we need to, as an industry, as a mushroom industry, we need to take care about the products. We need to think more integrated and use the pest management not only with products but also with management, right? Because we are agronomists, we are technicians, we know how to do it, and it's gonna be the future. Yes, the future is in the management, in how you do things, and not how to apply a product or what dose I put in a fungicide or in the casing soil, for example. Yes, and so in order to do this, we need to think properly, and we need to gather thoughts from the growers, gather the growers with the politicians, and think more broader. And we need to be together in order to have solutions, right? So these possibilities are here. And in the meanwhile, while we are going to biological solutions, we as BSF, we are going to keep fighting for the growers. And we are not going to leave these chemical products alongside, and we're not going to drop this from one day to another. It's just a look into the future, into 10, 15 years, where agriculture is going to be totally different than it is now. And the message here is, while we are developing this, let's put hands on, let's gather all the voices and let things happen, right? And we have, for example, something very nice coming. This is the Cercadis. It's another fungicide.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Just a quick note, please, if you can start drawing your conclusion.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
The Cercadis, it's another fungicide who, thanks to the request of the growers, we went to the MRLs, and we realized that this is a good product for mushrooms. And now we started to make the registration for the mushrooms. So next year, probably we will have another solution. And that's thanks to the growers, not thanks to us. So in conjunction, we can make things happen while we are going through this sustainability and more greener country, yes, continent also. Well, thank you very much.
So I leave the floor open for questions online or here from the audience. We're taking questions online.
This thing is moving the... Sorry.
Okay, it seems we have a questions from the audience.
Can you say something on the degradability of your products in mushrooms? How long they stay in the substrate, also for with regards to a second life of the substrate, so after use?
All chemicals, especially phytosanitary chemicals, has a certain life, like a residual life. That's your question. You can totally use it. I mean, reuse the compost or the rest of the soil, because the chemicals has a life, and how to say it in English? It's a difficult word, but it turns into, at the end of the day, into organic matter also. So it depends on the active ingredient, how long they stay into the soil. But it's not a long-lasting, depends of course in the active ingredients. Some actives are more residual than others. But at the end of the day, you can have the soil without this trace of products. The time? It really depends on the product, but some products, I mean, you can apply and you have these maximum limit residues, yes, and some products after 10 days you can, yes. So it really depends on the product. Of course, you're gonna have a trace, but it's very, very small, and it's all tested. So those traces that stays there are not considered as dangerous or considered as that you will have any problem in the future.
Okay, and oh, a question there in the background.
Hello, I have a question regarding the efficiency of the biostimulants when applied in a substrate. So in this project, in this BIOSCHAMP project, there was a limitation in the efficiency of the biostimulants when applied in the casing material. So in BAS, you, for example, have a commercial product called Serifel that is based on Bacillus amiroglycophaciens. How important do you think that is to make the correct formulation to adapt these biostimulants or the biostimulant cocktail to the different substrates? Because I don't know if this is related to the failure that we found in BIOSCHAMP because of the competition with the other organisms living in the casing material.
Formulation is as important as the active ingredient or any product that you're applying there. It's as important as the active substance that you're applying. So sometimes you have a very good active, or in this case the bacillus, but if you don't have the right formulation, for sure it can be or you can fail or succeed. It depends. In the formulation, yes, and how it interacts with the soil and with the, in this case, with the mushroom.
Very well, and we have 2 questions in the chat. You can see them there on the screen. So the first question reads, in the past, research has been done on essential oils as crop protection agents with considerable success. Can they be considered as candidates for new products?
Yes, they can, and absolutely. I mean, we were trying and testing these essential oils. Right now, as I mentioned, we have a lack of solutions, and we are not staying there and saying, I don't have a solution. We are working on, we have a R&D department who's as big as, I mean, huge R&D department, and we are considering also essential oils, yes.
Okay, and final question reads, what is the name of the product which will be registered next year?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I can answer that, but let's keep it secret. Cercadis. It's a product that is already in the market. It's a product that is working really good. You cannot use it now. Yes, please. And these fungicides needs to be used rationally, and especially that we are launching a new product. Please keep in mind that you need to switch active ingredients in order not to gain resistance. Yes, so that's very, very important. It's one of the most important things in order to have a sustainable product in the market right now.
Thank you. I believe we have no more questions in the chat and no more questions here in the audience in person as well. So thank you so much, Ignacio.
All right. Thank you.
And for the next presentation on this section, we have Herminia de la Varga, PhD researcher at Fertinagro, and she's going to give us a presentation about microbes, our allies, but not the only ones.
Hello, thank you very much for the nice presentation. Let's wait for the, okay. Well, as you have seen, I'm Herminia de la Varga. I'm research project manager at Fertinagro. I work in the research and development department, and I'm in charge of European projects and also in a part of the company that is most focused on edible mushrooms. Fertinagro is a fertilizer company, but it belongs to a big group that is Tervalis, which has a lot of different business, but the main core is agriculture. So Fertinagro was founded by farmers that decided to produce their own nutritional solutions and their own biostimulants. So I think that this is important because all the products and everything is done thinking by the point of view of a farmer, not the point of view of a chemical or a biologist even, or a producer of that. So, well, we are based in Spain. The main facilities are located in Teruel. It's a small region from Spain with some difficulties of connections and so on. So it's hard to have a company like that there, but we are present in all over the world right now. So as I told you, we are fertilizers and biostimulant and nutritional solution suppliers and producers. But we are focused mainly now on producing biostimulants for many kinds for all the crops, and also microbial products. And from some years ago, like 6 years ago or like that, a new line was introduced as a biocontrol line, taking into account also all the pests and diseases that we can find on the crops. Why? Because we think on the crops as a total, we need to have healthy soils, healthy plants, healthy substrates, healthy mushrooms to have good quality crops and good yields of these crops. So today, as you may imagine, I'm going to talk you about these two parts because they are really linked in the products that we developed and our participation in BIOSCHAMP. This is important for us to focus on this because we also have a big production facility of this kind of products for microbial products for agriculture. It's one of the biggest ones that exist in Europe. And we are able to produce over 50 million hectares products in 1 year. This is the result of a lot of investments in research. We have different patents, but what is important for us is that we have identified, we have a bank of more than 1,000 microorganisms. We study them, we study the functions that they do when interaction with the crops, with soil, with environment. We have around 300 functionalized, so we know well what they do. And from these ones, we have selected, we go step by step. By the moment, we have around 35, here's 33, but we have 35 registered now, and some of them have started to be introduced in the products. Why I'm here? Because we were participating we were part of the BIOSCHAMP project. We were in charge of the industrialization of the BIOSCHAMP biostimulant solution, so the scaling up from laboratory to industrial production of the biostimulant. Unfortunately, as you have seen before, this part was not successful as we expected, but it doesn't mean that we will not continue doing research on that because it has potential. And I think that we have already things to do on that and to find solutions for mushroom. So the question that we were answering today is if we are ready for a future without chemical pesticides. And I have to say that I think that yes, but we have to see where we are. I will do this quick because later I think that we will see that. But you see that the number of allowed pesticides is being reduced, of active substances. You see now we are here. And the number of pesticides, even they are needed, they are being reduced. When I say pesticide, I say chemical pesticides. But we have alternatives to that. We have microorganisms, we have basic substances and low-risk substances. And these are the alternatives in which Fertinagro we are working at that to have a biocontrol, bioprotection activity. When I talk about microorganisms, I talk about different kingdoms, fungi, bacteria, nematodes, and viruses. Viruses are not always, we usually don't think on them when talking about that. And we have to think that farmers usually, when we talk about microorganisms, they thought about them in a negative way because usually they are causing a lot of diseases, but we have to think that they can help us to work. They can help us to work against these pests that we usually have, because in nature it works like that. So we have to take benefit of them because they can do incredible things for us. When talking about microorganisms, we have to think that they are not only working as biocontrol or as pesticides or as protectants. They are acting also in the crops. It doesn't matter if it's a plant or it's a mushrooms. They will interact also with the environment, and they will work also as biostimulants. That's why in the project in BIOSCHAMP, we were talking about biostimulation, because we wanted to have also an increase on the production or on the quality of the mushrooms. And we think always on this, on everything on that. On the point of view of protection, on the point of view on acting against specific diseases, and also in having access to nutrients or to whatever molecules to enhance production. Because these microorganisms can do a lot of things and do a lot of things for our crops. And they're incredible, and we have the opportunity to take benefit of them to work for us. I'm going to put you some examples. This is the BIOSCHAMP. You have seen it, so I will go quick on that. But we have other examples. When talking about bacteria, this is one of the technologies that we have in some of our products in Fertinagro. We call it, well, the marketing department call it Athon technology, because it's based on a microorganism, this is Azotobacter. And even if it was thought at the beginning to be acting only as a biostimulant to increase the acquisition of nitrogen by the plants, we saw that it also has an effect because it produces exudates that are acting as fungicides and nematicides. So we know that it works in some cases. We tested it also for BIOSCHAMPs, but for mushrooms, in the form that we have it actually was not working. Probably it was due to a different formulation, because it was a product that was not thought for mushrooms, was thought for plants, but it's a candidate to be reformulated and studied to be working against some fungi. This example is from a product that is based on a virus, on a phago. Here you can see, I have put you these pictures because I think that they are really, you can see really how it works. Here we have a control. This is from a project that in which we were looking different viruses to control plant pathogens that are bacterial ones, as the Herminia amylovora. Here you have the control without anything. Here you have a peer with infected with Herminia, and here you have a peer infected with Herminia, and in which we applied the phago, and you can see the differences are really visual. Here is another example of another candidate virus to be used to go against Xanthomonas. Here you have the control. Here you have the control with the Xanthomonas infection, and here the example of the Xanthomonas infection plus the virus candidate that we selected. We are investing a lot in working with phagos now, because we see that they are working really well for a lot of diseases. Here I had just put it 2 examples. And sorry, and this was just to show you examples that we have a lot of microorganisms that we can use. We have a huge quantity of microorganisms to be used, but not only microorganisms. As I told you, we can formulate them or use only basic substances that are, well, you can read it, are substances that are usually not registered as pesticides, but we know that they have some effects of protectant effects or similar that we can use to go forward to this pest. Well, we have included them in some of our portfolio products. And I wanted to show you that just this. Even probably you know that, but there are substances that are used that are no longer in, they should not be used because they are no longer registered as that. But we have to look for substitutes of that. And well, this I will go to show you some examples of these basic substances. This is from another project that is also ongoing now, another European project, in which we developed a fungicide based on these basic substances. In this case was from potassium carbonate, but also formulated with biostimulants, and to go against some fungal diseases that we found in the horticultural crops like lettuce, tomato, and peppers. And well, it was tested in Murcia and also in Greece. And we had quite good results in these examples that I put you. Here we had positive effects. Even some of them were more effective than the commercial chemical fungicides that are used actually. And this was because of a double action of the product, because it was working as an antifungal action, but also because of the elicitor effect of the adjuvants that we had in the formulation. And just to go to the end of this, I agree with our colleague that talked before that we need this work well, all these things work well, but we need to go to an integrated pest management, because without that, we are not going to do anything. This is just the last example of an integrated solution that we are developing right now. This is not commercialized now. I put you different crops. This is for truffles. And we are in Teruel. Teruel is the biggest producer of truffles on the world, but we have also Pest. It's a really young crop. It only has 60 years old of crop. And we have Pest. We have new pests that, like this beetle. And here you can see the losses in only this region. And nowadays, there's no solution for this. The only is to use traps with an attractant that is in the list of non-allowed substances. But we are working on an integrated solution with bacteria, entomopathogenic nematodes, also biocides, and also the traps, trying to control this. And we are having quite good results on that. But the most important thing is the good practices from the farmers at the end. And yes, we are prepared to a future without chemical pesticides, but we need time and farmer collaborations to work to an integrated pest management and to change the mind in the agricultures that new products are as good as the old ones, and new products that are based on microorganisms are good also, and the microorganisms are not enemies, are allies, and we know them, and we know how to use them. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there are any questions here or in the chat, let's take a look. No questions yet here in the audience. We have a questions here in the front.
Very interesting talk, Herminia. I'm interested in the virus control products. How are you applying the viruses, and are they phages or in what type?
They are phages. We are, well, by the moment, we don't have any product on the market on that. We are working on it. But, well, we are producing them. They are phages, and they are working really well.
And so are they very specific then?
Yes.
For each pathogen?
Yes, of course. They are specific for each pathogen. This is the key of the product, yes.
Okay, and I think we have no more questions. So thank you so much, Herminia. And we can move on to the last presentation we have for this section. And for this presentation, we have Natalia Nogueira from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food in Spain. Hello. Hello, Natalia. And she's going to talk to us about a regulatory approach to pesticides in Spain and Europe.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am Natalia Nogueira from the Ministry, and I am dealing with the regulator sector, which is a very complicated one, very difficult, but I would like to send a message of hope from my sector also to deal with all the problems of the whole stakeholders, dealing with the mushroom sector and agricultural sectors, dealing with pesticides. So for my part, we have to understand the regulatory framework to see how can we work and how can we deal with new proposals for regulatory. So concerning all the plant protection products on the market, we have the regulation 1107 from 2009. We have in the article 1.3 the purpose of this regulation, and the purpose is to ensure a high level of protection of both human and animal health and the environment. The second purpose is to improve the functioning of the internal market, and the third purpose is improving the agricultural production. And added to these purposes, we have the farm-to-fork strategy targeted, which is added to this regulation to have new targets by 2030, which is reduce of 50% the overall use and risk of chemical pesticides, reduce by 50% of more hazardous pesticides, and achieve at least 25% of the EU's agricultural land under organic farming. So how can we do to deal with all these needs and all these purposes? The proposals from the commissions. The first proposal from the Commission was to amend the Sustainable Use Directive. As you may know, in 2022, the first versions of the Commission's proposal for amending the directive was published in June 2022. A regulation was proposed, not a directive, so it would be directly applicable and transposition would not be mandatory. The targets set out in the farm-to-fork strategy with regard to risk reduction in the use of plant protection products and with regard of the use in quantity of the most hazardous active substances would become mandatory. The national action plans currently into force are to be revised, and indicators are set which are to be incorporated into the plans and for which monitoring through annual reports would be mandatory. And regards to integrate pest management, the obligations were to be reinforced or were to be established at level of each crop. The prohibition is set for specific authorizations of the application of plant protection products in Natura 2000 protected areas. Note that 40% of the Spanish useful agricultural area is in the scope of these protected sensitive areas. And those proposals were to be announced withdraw in February 2024 because of the farmers' protest and the opposition of the right parties in the EU parliaments. So what's next after this withdrawal of this proposal? The directive from 2009 still applies, but the two targets set out in the farm-to-fork strategy, which are non-legally binding indicators, will be edited by the DG Stat using pesticide sales data provided annually by each member state. So we have two new targets for the reduce of chemicals and reduce the more hazardous pesticides by 2030. For the first target, until now, we have already reached 46% of reduction. And for the second target, 25% of reduction is already achieved. So those targets will be published by the DG Stat each year in order to achieve finally the main objective. What are other regulatory proposals? Are related to new technologies. The first one is digital farming. In Spain, the Royal Decree from 2022 establishes and regulates the information system for agriculture and livestock farms, which is called CX. And it's mandatory from 1st September 2024 for farms larger than 30 hectares with more than 5 hectares of irrigated area, for greenhouses and for PPP applications. And then it will be mandatory for the 1st September 2025 for the rest of farmers and holders of grassland only if these areas are subject to fertilization. And it would not be mandatory for farms that are smaller than 5 hectares and also for producers of grassland farms and with no fertilizations. And added to the CX, we will have the digital farm notebook, which will be mandatory for applications from 1st January 2026 for professional farmers and for PPP applications. It has to be included in the digital farm notebook. Okay. Okay. Good. So let's go. And related to new technologies, we will have also, which is right now a purpose. It is not legally binding, and we are still working on it. It is the amendment of labeling regulation and digital labeling. For this proposal, it is at its final stage, and we will have a technical meeting with the stakeholders in September 2024 to discuss the final changes, and we will have also a public consultations. So what are the news in this labeling regulation? We will have new standard phrases for safety precautions and for risk mitigation measures. We will also have a pictogram for bees communicating a potential hazard. And we will include in the labeling the color scheme, which is a new indication for risk. For new classification A, low risk active substances and low risk plant protection product. Number B, class B for low risk active substance and no low risk PPP. For class C, which is a light orange, it will be microorganisms, active substances, and plant protection product. Strong orange, which is D for chemical active substances and PPPs. And finally, for D, which is a red one, which is candidate for substitution, active substance, and plant protection product. What about the stakeholders? They have commented that the color scheme may discourage the use of biocontrol products and will generate confusion, while others found that color scheme is favorable to biocontrol products. So this is a discussion we will deal with it in the September 24 meeting that we will have. And added in the amendment labeling, we will include the digital labeling in Article 3, which are included the requirements for digital labeling. The digital label shall contain the same information as the physical label, and it will be voluntary for applicants. We have at EU level a working party, which is called the Digital Label Compliance, which is a multi-stakeholder project with included CropLife Europe, Copa-Cogeca, and CEMA are represented. And you can find here this in link more information about this working party. And is in compliance with the OCDE working party, Digital Label Scooping Workshop. And in the in this working party, they have already described the three kind of labels that we can find in a PPP, which is a physical label, which is a booklet, the classical booklet. You can also find an electronic labeling, which is a PDF that you can find in the label. And finally, a digital label will be the label which contains separate into pieces of information and data, an acquirable data set, which is readable and acquirable data set, okay? So you can find more information in the OCD working party, and next meeting will be held in the 17th September 2024, so we are busy with it. What about other regulatory proposals related to new technologies? And this is a very important one because it will deal with a new approach to approve active substances at EU level. As you may know, we have reduced the amount of active substances available for the farmers. And this is because we have to assess the risk for the environment, for the human, and so the data requirements not allow us to approve those active substances. But what happens if we demonstrate that the reduction of exposure of the risk can be achieved with new technologies? So new active substances could be approved at EU level, and finally we will have more plant protection products. So this is a very new kind of approach to try to approve new active substances at EU level, and finally to have more options and more solutions. So for this we have the first version of the endorsed in the standard committee, which I am the Spanish representative, and you can have the link here of the compendium of conditions of use to reduce the exposure and risk from plant protection products. So what is this compendium? It is an open list of ways to reduce the exposures and risk from plant protection products and plays a role in the risk assessment of active substances and finally also the plant protection products. It is the first step of a series of actions which would be needed to implement better some of the technologies listed in the document. So it's a list where you can find every item. You can find which is the kind of reducing the risk assessment in the human health or in the environment, which is the behavior in the environment, the fate and behavior here, and which is the performance, and you can see 50% of reduction of exposure. So those were those when it is certified, this kind of application of plant protection product, when it is certified by reduce the 50%, this data could be used in the assessment of the active substances in order to be approved at EU level. So it will be a very hopeful measure to have tools to assess and to be more optimistic for the approval of active substances. And another proposal is the precision application for your sector, for the mushrooms. Of course, drone application would be not available, but we can use the precision applications. What is this for? What is precision applications is a European platform to gather expertise in precision applications and risk mitigation measures, engage dialogue between experts and risk assessors, and is a public and private organizations which are represented. So this platform means the main objective is to find tools to identify risk mitigation measures and to include new lines in the compendium of reduction of risk strategies in order to approve new active substances. And we have, in this group, we have identified different tasks. The first task is to identify the use category describing precision uses in plant protection products. on the basis of an inventory of equipment and corresponding aims of treatments for volume and drift. The task 2 is to develop appropriate language to better describe the use category to be used in a gap table, to identify the potential changes to risk assessment and the potentials as risk mitigation measures for its use, to develop adapted risk assessments for each use case, to prepare material to enter in the compendium of risk mitigation measures and precision applications of the European Commissions, and finally, develop equivalence tables of tool performances regarding risk reduction and use reductions. So it would complement the compendium of risk mitigation measures applied. You can have more information in this link that I have included in my presentation. Okay, so the EU platform is aligned with the EU Pest. We see the unmanned aerial pesticide application system task force under the umbrella of OCDE working party of pesticide drone. Also, an international group of experts which are represented private and public organizations. And we also have the Phytodrone project at a national level, which is a EU project to gain expertise and produce data related to the reduction of risk of precision technologies. And what about biocontrol? So biocontrol is another area of knowledge, and it's another area we are dealing in EU level. As you may know, the chemicals, the growth rate of chemicals is now 3%, but for the growth rate of biological is 12%. That indicates that in 2043, we will have the same importance of both sectors, and we will have the same importance economical sector for the biologicals than for the chemical sectors. But this is for the entire world. But what happens in Europe? In Europe, we are not having a growth rate for the biologicals as for 12%. It's much more lower. So the stakeholders are pushing us very, very hard to have new solutions in order to the approval of biological products and solutions for the agriculture. So what are the responses as a regulatory institution? So until now, what have we done in 2022 and 2023? The regulatory actions were based on and focused on microorganisms. We have published new data requirements for microorganisms that are for new regulations. The data requirements for active substance, data requirements for plant protection products, data requirements for uniform principles, and finally the amendment of Regulation 1107, including specific criteria for the approval of active substances that are microorganisms. Add to these new 4 regulations, we have published 2 Commission communications listing test methods and guidance documents which are relevant for harmonized implementations for active substances and for plant protection products that are microorganisms. And finally, we have also published the explanatory notes to provide further details and examples on the data requirements related to microorganisms in order to improve the quality of the dossiers to approve active substances related to microorganisms and plant protection products containing microorganisms. So this is a link of the explanatory notes that are very practical, and they are used by our stakeholders in order to use in the dossiers that we have to assess and we have to deal it in the ministry. But now, what we doing now? Yes, fine, 3 minutes, okay? this is one of my last presentation, okay? We had in December 23, a workshop related to the zonal authorization procedure, improvement and developments. And we had a specific breakout group dealing with authorizations in plant protection product in the light of the Green Deal, low risk, biocontrol, and non-chemical plant protection product assessment. The objective was to enhance the availability of alternatives to chemical plant protection products and to promote integrated pest management strategies. We have discussed on 5 main topics. First one was actions to reduce delays of authorization of biopesticides as fast-track procedures. The second topic is the lack of capacity at member state level, number of experts and knowledge. Third topic is the harmonization of the zonal system and procedures for mutual recognitions of microorganisms plant protection products. The fourth item is the performance of the risk assessment with guidance documents, trainings, presume missing advices, and finally, how to integrate new technologies in the risk assessment. You have the whole document, if you are interested, here in the link in my presentation. And thank you for attention. Should you have any kind of comments, questions, I'm open.
Thank you, Natalia. So any questions from the audience, or if there's anyone online who wants to write something in the chat? We have a question here.
I have one question regarding nematodes and the digital label that you mentioned. I know that in other countries in Europe, it's allowed to use digital labels for nematodes. It is allowed here in Spain, or it's not ready yet?
Digital labeling is not included in the last regulation we have, so the new amendment would include it. As we see, it's a voluntary, so you can include it if the stakeholder would like to. Always, physical label is mandatory and has to include the same information and does the digital label for now.
Any more questions here from the audience in person? Okay. We have nothing else from the chat right now at the moment. So thank you so much, Natalia. And well, with Natalia, we have closed this part of the event, and we have just one last presentation remaining, which is from the NOVATERRA project. We wanted to invite fellow EU-funded projects to give a presentation. And for this presentation, we have José Miguel Campos, Director of Ebro Experimental Station from IRTA, and project researcher for the EU-funded project NOVATERRA. So, you would like to give it like...
Yes. And okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us and allow us to share what NOVATERRA project is. Unfortunately, the coordinator of the project could not attend this meeting, so I'll try to do my best to explain what is NOVATERRA, what consists of, and what the main results of this project are. First of all, NOVATERRA project is a project that has been, as I have mentioned now, is finishing in 2 weeks. It's a project that lasted for 4 years, and the consortium of the project consists of 19 partners and 4 third parties. You can see what they are the countries that compose this consortium, and with a budget about 5.5 million euros, right? Excuse me. So the overall objective of the project is to reduce the impact of the use of phytosanitary products and by different approaches that I will later explain in the two main Mediterranean crops. There are olive crops and vineyards, right? So we will do this, or we are doing this, we have done this through three different approaches. The first of all with bioproducts, alternative products. The second one concerning smart farming. The third one, the management of the soil management, and also ecological infrastructures regarding functional diversity to achieve an integrated and sustainable strategy to be applied efficiently in both crops, right? So we focused on most of the key pests and diseases of both crops. So downy and powdery mildew, botrytis and European grape moth in vineyard, and the olive leaf spot, olive fruit fly, olive moth, and black scale in olive crops, right? So here you have the logos of the partners of the consortium. You can see over there universities and research centers, also companies, small and medium companies, and also big companies, and also knowledge transfer organizations and associations, also of advisors, producers in many countries that belong to the consortium. So this was the overall objective of the project, and I will explain very briefly an overview of the project in which the objectives are. The first one was to review the use and the information regarding the plant protection products used in both crops, and not only from a technical point of view, also from a legal, social, and ethical point of view, right? So in order to start working on this subject. Excuse me. Right, the second one is concerning the use of bioproducts to develop the novel combination of alternative products regarding, I will explain later, these some kind of pheromone dispensers, resistant inducers, bioproducts, etc. in both crops. The third one is regarding smart farming, and the main objective was to reduce the application of dosage of PPPs, plant protection products, through the use of these technologies, smart farming technologies. The fourth one was to mitigate or to minimize the impact of both diseases and pests in both crops by the management of the soil in both crops. And this one, the fifth, is a compilation of the techniques and the practices that has been validated or developed in the previous objectives in an integrated approach to be used and validated in different trials in the field. And the sixth one is the objective was to maximize the adoption of the solutions derived from the project. Okay, so the first block is this. This is work package number 2 regarding bioproducts. As I have said, it were performed over 120 field trials, over 20 laboratory trials regarding the development and the assessment of pheromone dispensers, bioproducts, resistance inducers, and not only new products, but new strategies. So by using different techniques in a different approach to develop efficient and sustainable strategies to apply in both crops. Okay, so I will explain some of the highlights of this work package. The first one is this: is a product called ProLab. ProLab is a protein derived from an extract of sweet lupine. It's a fungicide. And as you can see over there, or some many graphics, I won't go into detail about this, but it's quite promising results on downy mildew. Though this product was focused or was intentionally the target was powdery mildew, but however, it has worked quite good also with downy mildew. You can see the efficacy in those figures. I won't go into detail this to show some of the results. The second one is the use of mass trapping for the olive fruit fly. Mass trapping is a well-known and widely used technique, but it's not an efficient technique as a standalone method. So requires the application of support treatments with insecticides. So the idea was to test different in different management systems in different countries, different strategies based on this technique, mass trapping. Okay, so we tested, as I have said, in three different sites in Spain and Portugal, different devices, mass trapping devices, and we for 3 years we tested the efficacy of this methodology with different devices and under different support treatments. In the end, we achieved under different crop systems, crop managements, more intensive, more traditional in different regions, and through in a period of 3 years, similar efficacies as obtained with conventional insecticides. What was the objective of this task? Okay, the second one is focused also on olive fruit fly, in this case by using entomopathogenic fungi, in this case Boveria bassiana, and we perform also 3 years, 3-year trials in 3 different locations, and in the end we achieve similar efficacies with the use of Boveria bassiana and application of another sustainable products like kaolin and others, similar to obtained with synthetic pesticides, right? Excuse me. Okay, this is the third block. I will pass this very rapidly. I was not involved in it. I will try to explain. I try to do my best to explain which are the main results of this work package. So it's divided into different objectives, as you can see over there. Some of them regarding the creation of a platform system for decision support system, others regarding the canopy characterization, very important in order to adjust the volume of application to the real vegetation volume in the field, okay? And to do a variable rate of application that in the end is the main objective of this work package. And finally, testing of the development. First of all, this is some works performing in the framework of the project regarding the identification, recognition of different diseases. In this case, powdery mildew and peacock spot in vineyard and olive crops. So you can see over there the works performance, 6 different wavelength ranges were selected and were identified as the most proper to identify, recognize these 2 diseases, both in the laboratory and in the field. This is a decision support system that is based on the data of over 302,200 weather stations in order to provide a alert system for the control of different diseases in both vineyard and olive crops. This is a map of southern Catalonia. You can see over there, so according to the color, the pest risk that is threatening the crop in each location. Okay. This would be one. This would be an infography of one of the works performing in this work package. You can see over there. It's regarding the use of satellite images to provide prescription maps in order to apply a different volume of application according to the volume of vegetation in the field. You can see it's very. I think it can be seen very clearly how it works according to the images by the satellite, and also the application and the final map, right? So also some of the techniques developed in the framework of this work package were this prototype that is a tractor-mounted equipment for canopy characterization according to different sensors. This tractor is equipped with different sensors, and allow us to have a very accurate characterization of the canopy to apply to apply a volume according to the volume of vegetation in this crop. I will pass this. This is a map of how the satellite images are used in order to adjust the information gathered from the satellite images, and how finally we give a recommendation of volume of application with a very accurate error. So this would be 3 different prescription maps. These are in different colors. Blue, the lighter color means the lower rate, and the darker blue means the higher rate of application recommended according to the study performed previously. Okay, this could be also applied in a quite difficult scenario that is a mountain viticulture. These are the banks of the Douro River in Portugal with a very steep slopes, and we have tested the technology in this kind of orchards, and the results were quite good with a high reduction of volume of application of both water and the pesticides. This would be again some prescription of maps. It's not the legend of the colors, but you can imagine that I guess that different colors mean different volume of application. So this would be the final output of these works, and were achieved with a high precision and with a low error. That was the main objective. Okay. Another important issue is the drift. The drift is, as you know, is the fraction of the spray that doesn't get the target vegetation but go to the atmosphere. So we measure, well, not me, but my colleagues. My colleagues measured this, and according to the studies performed, they could check that the drift with this smart farming were lower, also in different heights. It was measured with this kind of bars and sensitive papers, so it was another good result regarding this environmental issue that is the drift. Another study performed in this work was the recognition a low-cost system based on artificial vision and machine learning to identify the characterization of the canopy also in both crops. Okay, this could be both two different. These are different vegetation index that are used to design or to propose different volume applications. You can see difference over there with one and the other. This is the more accurate system is the one in the lower ones. It is a vegetation index known as normalized vegetation index. Okay. I will skip this one. Is also some prescription maps regarding the efficacy, and also I will explain now. This is an infography of how the smart platform that is will be designed in the project is being designed in the project, integrates all the information gathered from data from weather stations, from the decision support systems, also from the equipments that work on the ground, and the images from the satellite. Okay, this would be the display of the decision support system. You can see over there the different parameters of the application, the volume rate, the volume, the dosage of the products, the surface, and the time that is estimated to do the application. Okay. Finally, I will explain this 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes, it's enough. I was involved in this, so I can explain it faster. This is regarding the management of the soil in order to achieve a more sustainable control of pests and diseases in both crops, right? Okay, so one of the most important in perennial crops that are olive crops and vineyards, the most appropriate approach for biological control is conservation biological control, right? So conservation biological control relies mostly on the use of on the manipulation of habitat in order to promote the use of natural enemies in the agroecosystem. So this is what we study in this objective. You can see over there many wildflowers in orchards, and the arthropods associated to this wildflora. So the idea was to study, to characterize the ground cover of the agrosystems, the orchards, and also to study which was the arthropods and natural enemies associated with the most dominant and most frequent and abundant wildflowers, right? You can see over there an infography of the most abundant and most frequent species in one of the orchards. Okay, this one, in this subtask, it was a study how the incorporation, how the wood, the pruning wood that is a result from the pruning in a vineyard would affect the presence of inoculum of diseases. So through different, in this case, small trials, we assessed and demonstrated that by the composting, the most of the inoculum present in the residues was reduced, and it was the most sustainable and most efficient system in order to avoid the promotion of the disease, right? This one is in this map is you can see very clearly the blue area is a bare soil management. The yellow one was a natural ground cover, and the purple was a zone ground cover that you can see over there, the species that it contained. So we studied the effect of the different ground cover management on the promotion of natural enemies and in the control of the main key species, right? So, sorry. This is I don't want you to pay attention to the figures, only to have an idea of the worst performing in this case. So we sampled during a long period, which were the arthropods, the insects mainly, and also the arachnids, the spiders, that were present under different soil management, right? So you can see over there, according to the different taxonomic levels, which were the most abundant. And as you can imagine, in bare soil, the populations were quite more poorer than in both the natural and the zone ground cover. And finally, this is a robot developed in Portugal. This robot is equipped with also with smart sensors, and also with technology to do electrical weed removal, and also was equipped with smart precision nozzles to also do application for weed control. It has been partially developed in the framework of the project. And finally, I will skip this very, very fast. This is the aspect of the decision support system, the platform that will be designed, that is being designed in the project in order to introduce the characteristics of our orchard, to identify the main threats regarding the soil management, also the main threats regarding plant health, both pests and diseases. And in order to that, to propose different activities to mitigate these threats we have to face in our orchards regarding both soil management and plant health, both pest and diseases management. I'm run out of time, I guess. So,
yes.
So only just to acknowledge all the huge team of colleagues that have worked in the project, and many the extensive and massive field trials that have been performed, and also laboratories. So thank you to all, and thank you to you also. Thank you very much.
We have saved some time for questions, so if anyone has any question, we're going to check the chat. And if anyone in the audience has some last questions. I believe we're good. We are seeing nothing new in the chat. Okay, and no hand raised in the audience as well. So, thank you so much, Jose Miguel. Very well. So with this, this was our last presentation for the event. And with this, the whole thing comes to an end. We've come here to listen about the present and future of casing soils and pesticides. And I think we've had some amazing presentations from Kekkila-BVB, from Teagasc, from Ekofungi, from the point of view of the farmers, from the point of view of the industry as well. And then we moved on the second part of the event to talking about pesticides and what the future is going to look like. Chemical pesticides, biological ones. The information is there. We have the fantastic presentation of Natalia Nogueira from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food of Spain. And I'm very happy to say that we have closed the event with NOVATERRA project, which also works in topics related as well to soil health and finding alternatives to pesticides. With this, the event comes to an end, and well, the BIOSCHAMP project also comes to an end next September, 30th of September. Those of you who have been involved in the project from the beginning know that it has been a challenge, and not only from the research part. There has been a lot of work behind the scenes to make everything happen. So thank you so much to all partners and everyone who has contributed to it, because I think we can be proud of it. And it's very happy for me from Innovarum to be here today saying these closing words. Thank you so much. There will be more information on the web as the project closes. And don't forget that there's catering waiting outside.